I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, January the 27th, 2016. Israel strongly rejected comments made by United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon that seemed to offer justification for the recent terror attacks in Israel. Ban, while condemning the deadly terror attacks that claimed the lives of 23-year-old Shlomit Kriegman this week and 38-year-old Daphne Meir last week, also said that as oppressed peoples have demonstrated throughout the ages, it is human nature to react to occupation, which often serves as a potent incubator of hate and extremism. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed Ban's remarks, saying there is no justification for terrorism. Netanyahu said the Palestinian terrorists don't want to build a state, they want to destroy a state, and they say that proudly. They don't murder for peace, and they don't murder for human rights. The Prime Minister added that the UN has, quote, lost its neutrality and its moral force. And these statements, Netanyahu said, by the Secretary General do nothing to improve its situation, but rather stoke terror. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Samantha Power also weighed in what seemed to be a response to Ban's remarks. She issued a condemnation yesterday of the terror attacks and told the Security Council that while the U.S., quote, strongly opposes settlement activity, it believes that settlement activity can never in itself be an excuse for violence. Meanwhile, Jewish organizations here in the U.S. strongly rejected Ban's comments as well and urged him to clarify the remarks and unequivocally condemn all forms of Palestinian terrorism. CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, said Ban's remarks were highly disturbing and incredibly short-sighted. Greenblatt said these comments will not only serve to further embolden Palestinians seeking to attack Israeli civilians, but also undermine the global struggle against terrorism by making inappropriate distinctions and rationalizations. B'nai B'rith International called the comments an unacceptable rationalization of terrorism. They said Palestinian violence is not a natural reaction to Israeli policies. It is sadly an easily foreseeable consequence of continuous Palestinian incitement to hatred against Israel, Israelis, and Jews in general by Palestinian leaders in school curricula and through television and other media. Adding that terrorism against civilians or blaming the victim would never be acceptable in any other conflict, and that Ban's speech was part of a worrying pattern from the UN chief's office. An attack was prevented today in the West Bank. Israeli security forces arrested a young Palestinian after he pulled a knife on them at the Kalandia checkpoint near Jerusalem. The 17-year-old, said to be from Nablus, objected to a security search by IDF soldiers and then took out a knife and tried to attack one of them. He was detained without incident and taken for questioning. International Holocaust Remembrance Day is being observed today. In Israel, the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum is taking part in a number of events around the world. Historians, researchers, and educators from the museum are participating in ceremonies held today in Belgium, Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda, South Africa, Senegal, the Ivory Coast, Brazil, Slovakia, Malta, and Russia. And leaders across the globe released statements marking the day. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the Holocaust is a stark reminder of the dangers and risks of allowing hate, prejudice, and discrimination to spread unchallenged. He said it also reminds us that silence must never be an option when humanity is threatened. Swedish Foreign Minister Margot Wallström, who has faced strong criticism from Israel over recent remarks she has made about Palestinian terror, tweeted today, "Remember the victims of the Holocaust. The battle against anti-Semitism must always be fought." British Prime Minister David Cameron announced the construction next year of a new Holocaust memorial at Victoria Tower Gardens in London next to the House of Parliament, which he said, quote, will stand beside Parliament as a permanent statement of our values as a nation. And this evening, U.S. President Barack Obama spoke at the Righteous Among the Nations Awards ceremony taking place at the Embassy of Israel in Washington, D.C. This is the first time the ceremony, which is sponsored by the embassy in partnership with Yad Vashem, is being held in the U.S. At tonight's event, Yad Vashem posthumously recognized 4 individuals who heroically risked their lives to save Jews from the Nazis. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Wednesday, January the 27th. At 7:35, Executive Director of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, addresses the 2015 AJC Forum in Washington. At 8, Professor of Mideast Studies Zbigniew Tarrant discusses anti-Semitism in the Czech Republic in a program of ISGAP and the University of West Bohemia from Columbia University in New York. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with author and Rabbi Stuart Weinblatt on L'chaim. At 10, Israeli mother Robi Damelin, whose son, an IDF soldier, was killed by a Palestinian, discusses her organization, the Parents Circle, that supports bereaved Israeli and Palestinian parents. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, Thinking Out Loud with Micah Halpern. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, January the 27th, 2016. I'm Teisha Bader.